Hello, it's Joyful Hermit on a very gray and atmospheric day. I have several candles lit here in the Hermitage, and I had a wonderful visit with my spiritual director yesterday. We spoke of many things, most of which I cannot share, but we did discuss canonical approval, and he took several things that I've written in the past regarding my rule of life, the gospel rule, and the 9 S's and what I've written about those. Um, but we spoke of other things also, including the way canonical status has developed in the last century and sort of its oddity against the historical hermit, and even why the need to have canonical approval or canonical status for something as uncommon as hermits with such great variety. And it sort of came down to my saying, well, Louis Boyer and Dom Jean Leclerc had written in various words saying that um, it can be a gift and a grace to the church and a grace to the hermit. But then, of course, neither of these men were hermits, and they didn't explicitly mean in how the canonical status has now evolved in the 21st century. And we spoke of some of the people writing on such matters, and my director said, stay clear of those. And we agreed these things can go to one's head a little, and maybe a lot. I started thinking today and going back through things the Lord has guided me in and spoken to me about for my life. And I thought again about what's going on at Mass and what my great love and desire is, and not to be sidetracked by things of the temporal Catholic world or the visible church. St. Bernard always called it the visible church. There's nothing wrong with it, but it can become sidetracked with the aspects of our humanity that maybe aren't so pleasing. And I thought, who do I want to follow? What do I want to be? Because it even came up with my spiritual director. I said, well, if the new bishop would ask around about me, there would be some who wouldn't have a good thing to say because they've observed me or seen me at Mass but don't understand or have other ideas or feelings without knowing. And this made my spiritual director sort of sad, he said. And I thought about it last night, and I thought, no, it's come to be how I have learned to accept. And we did sort of discuss how the temporal opportunities are closed off to me usually by God's will. And it's sort of in uncanny ways that a lot of my background and experience from the secular world and career and all, or even from the spiritual realm, are not utilized in the ways that maybe we would think they could be of good use. And instead, there's always this call to the silence and to the hiddenness. And I came this morning, I got out my old Dewey Rames Bible. I have several different Bibles. I like that because you can tell I love language. But I read again about what Isaiah said, foretelling Jesus and the Passion of Christ. And he shall grow up as a tender plant before him, and as a root out of a thirsty ground. There is no beauty in him, nor comeliness. And we have seen him, and there was no sightliness, that we should be desirous of him. Despised and the most abject of men, a man of sorrows, and acquainted with infirmity. And his look was as it were hidden and despised, whereupon we esteemed him not. Surely he hath borne our infirmities and carried our sorrows, and we have thought him as it were a leper, and as one struck by God and afflicted. But he was wounded for our iniquities, he was bruised for our sins. The chastisement of our peace was upon him, and by his bruises we are healed. All we like sheep have gone astray. Every one hath turned aside into his own way, and the Lord hath laid on him the iniquity of us all. He was offered, because it was his own will, and he opened not his mouth. He shall be led as a sheep to the slaughter, and shall be dumb as a lamb before his shearer, and he shall not open his mouth. He was taken away from distress and from judgment. Who shall declare his generation? Because he is cut off out of the land of the living. For the wickedness of my people have I struck him. And he shall give the ungodly for his burial, and the rich for his death, because he hath done no iniquity, neither was there deceit in his mouth. And the Lord was pleased to bruise him in infirmity. If he shall lay down his life for sin, he shall see a long-lived seed, and the will of the Lord shall be prosperous in his hand. Because his soul hath labored, he shall see and be filled. By his knowledge shall this be my just servant justify many, and he shall bear their iniquities. Therefore will I distribute to him very many, and he shall divide the spoils of the strong, because he hath delivered his soul unto death, and was reputed with the wicked, and he hath borne the sins of many, and hath prayed for the transgressors. And I realize I want Jesus Christ. I don't want status. I don't want canonical approval, especially not in this generation, in this time period, where it's already just being sort of manipulated, person by person, bishop by bishop, informed into that which is the perceptions of those who maybe are ignorant to the life of the Hermetic vocation through history, and I understood the very meaning of it is a death to self that does not say, I am this or I am that, and does not have a lot of rules or laws. I thought of some deacons recently who were ordained to the diaconate, but in about the first year, this one man came up to me. I guess, I don't know, he was curious or something. And we had just had a mass or some such, and he wanted to talk, and I didn't know him, he didn't know me. He introduced himself, and he says, and I'm going to be a deacon. And then he told me what his work was, and I said, oh, you must have had, education and theology in your background. Oh, no, not either, And I think he was head of the Office of Catechesis or something, education. And I just realized that we're all sort of nothing. We're nothing. And I want to follow that pathway. Here's 3 little sort of whimsical poems I wrote years ago, but these poems come back and give me little answers. In fact, my spiritual director, I think, would say, go ahead and offer yourself to this bishop, but in prayer, I'm already realizing that our discussion yesterday already gave his real presence answer. And as I was walking back to my car yesterday, I was getting these feelings again of, why do this? Why go that path of that I sense is going to be a lesser path? I need to choose the path of greater suffering, the path of the great mystical unknown, and to know that as my angel appeared a little over 5 years ago and very much declared my hermit vocation that God had chosen for me and values very much, that I guess his real presence is doing with me as he wills now, quite freely, quite magnanimously, and why complicate it with the technicalities and the increasing amount of rules, and what does this mean and what does that mean, and who's credible to speak and who isn't, and who has this status and who does not, and what does that particular statement, as we were reading over yesterday again what it says in the Catechism and in the canon laws, for hermits, it doesn't even say that there must be a Mass. It says a ceremony or service or a sign. You know, I could just have this and have my bishop hear my vows. It would need to be a Mass. It says so in the canon laws and in catechism. Either or. And see how precedence already has created something other and will continue to do so. And I want to be like Jesus. I want to be, and I have accepted, I think, over the night and this morning, to be nothing and to let his will be all in the silence, in the solitude, in the nothingness of my little subdivision house. I call it a hermitage sometimes. Some weeks it becomes an anchorage, even an anchor hold. And anyway, here's this it was a 3-part poem. Identity is gone away. I asked for this. What can I say? Emptiness is left instead. It frightens me. My daily bread? Grace doth fill the empty vase. Faith tells me so. How shall I praise? I'm on a spiritual journey. My bags are barely packed. The bee doth buzz the pregnant flower. Sun warms his striped back. The flight from death to life is long. The suitcase is weighed down with sticky trials of joyful pain before the honey's found. Unlike the frog on lily pad, I roosted where I shouldn't have. How sad! When frog leaped easily to water and managed well to swim down under, I saw my blunder. And this one here, guess in discernment processes every day of our lives, we have to consider what brings us joy, what brings us peace, what brings us to He with whom, at least I and many of you, want to be united forever. Let me hear with inner ear the heartbeat of a bird. Let me see with inner eye the heartbreak of a lie. Let me taste with inner chaste the purity of love. Let me touch without reproach the oozing sins of man. Let me smell with every breath the rose of your sweet death. Then let me be a devotee to your redemptive life. God bless His real presence in you. And I remain your joyful hermit of nothing but Jesus Christ, a worm and no woman.